Minecraft's operator mode, also known as legal cheating, because the hours you would usually put into gathering materials such as netherite you can get in a matter of seconds by just using creative. So when my friend gave me up on her Minecraft SMP, I knew that I wanted to cause some mischief. But in order to not get my powers immediately revoked, I had to start off with something simple such as flying around the map. When I thought enough time had passed, I gave myself a stick. However, this was no ordinary stick as it was enchanted with knockback 1000. To not raise suspicion about this item, I went directly to the owner and used it on her. Why, you may ask? Well, because she would think it was just a joke and I would get rid of it. But instead of that, I put it safely in my ender chest, then proceeded to get even more copies. Now at this point, the players started noticing my strange behavior, so I said that I was just doing mod stuff and hit those players with my stick too. When I got bored of this, I asked Mystique, the owner, to pick a block, to which she ended up choosing chiseled stone bricks and podzol. Except what I was building was a fighting arena where she would be forced to volunteer along with another player. Now this isn't your classic sword and armor fight, but more of a don't get knocked into the lava fight. The rules of this match are every player is given a stick with knockback 1000 on it to make it difficult for the players to push each other into the lava, theoretically making the fight last a long time. However, the winner receives a piece of bedrock as encouragement to be victorious. Just as the game began, a fluffy intruder entered, a pet wolf, which soon killed Mystique. And since this was something I had not prepared for, a new round was called. This time, Mystique was killed by the actual stick. Now you see, I was not happy with that outcome, because what's the use of having a lava death trap if you can just avoid it by losing all your hearts? Therefore, I decided to have one more round. As they both whacked each other, a super dramatic battle occurred. They fought hard, but the fall was harder, and unsurprisingly, Mystique was the one who died the correct way in the lava. Once I gave Bees the prize, I flew off to start constructing my next scheme. However, this challenge also required a bit of beforehand preparation. I started by making a bedrock floor, followed by putting chests in the center and filling them up with random items such as fish and wood. If you haven't guessed by now, this is a building competition with a 5-minute timer for each of the 3 rounds where the winner will receive a skulk sensor. Now because I am the one with operator, I choose what the players must create, and the first structure is a chihuahua. As the contestants built, my hopes for decent stats just kept getting lower as the more they made, the worse it became. It also didn't help that they were putting more effort into complaining about the lack of resources rather than focusing on the task at hand. But to help with this was a trusty threat of death paired with a barrier block prison, which soon stopped the complaints. Eventually, when the time came to judge, I did a very unfair and atrocious job, as even if the build was bad, it got a good score, and if the build was amazing, it also got a good score. Bees was the first, and I gave it a 9 out of 10 because it was impeccable. So small, so cute, but I had to minus a point for a lack of a tail. The second was Mystique. This chihuahua was bigger, multicolored, and kinda looked like a rat, so it got an 8.5 out of 10. Finally was Cryptid. I was disappointed to see that the structure had many flaws and bad design features. For example, it does not look like a chihuahua whatsoever. If anything, it'd be a sausage dog. And to top things off, he insulted chihuahuas as a whole by calling them evil, and as sad as I was, I still gave him an 8 out of 10. In between rounds, Cryptid managed to be deducted a point for tampering with the scoreboard, and the only reason I did that was because I would not be able to remember everyone's points. In round 2, I wanted the topic to be a car. Just as the timer started, I was asked about the blocks and if I was going to refill the chests. Much to the contestants' shock, I said no. They just have to work with what they have. As you can imagine, I got several complaints, and after a long discussion, I finally caved in and agreed to give them wool. However, one person was still not happy with this and wanted mushroom blocks. I denied him, and then he asked for a flint and steel, which I assumed was to burn the other player's builds, so obviously I did not give that to him. The time was over, so it was time to judge. First was Mystique.
Got the tinted glass,
With the
got
windows
the windscreen wipers, got the blinkers.
After her convincing speech, I gave her a 9.5 out of 10. Next was Bees. Now they went with a Lightning McQueen approach, which was very cool, so I gave it a 9 out of 10. Cryptid certainly had a different theme from the classic car, as he went with a drunk driver. Now I do admit I would not be able to think of creating something like that, so I gave it a 9 out of 10 for creativity. The final round was slightly different and could severely alter your score, as instead of building from your imagination, the players had to copy my creation exactly. 5 points would be awarded for time and 5 for accuracy. I also wanted to make this a fair competition, so I planned on giving everyone the exact right amount of materials needed to make this build. Now Mystique was well behaved and got her stuff, but the other two decided to entity cram themselves and get into a fight, giving them a severe disadvantage for 2 reasons. Time, obviously, but also I already gave them the materials, and since they both kept dying, they probably didn't even have the resources. And just as you thought things couldn't possibly get any worse, Cryptid started destroying and altering my build, so I disqualified him. In the end, Mystique managed to do it the fastest, however it wasn't accurate, so Bees may have done it slower, but it was accurate, so they were both supposed to be given 5 points. However, I may have accidentally gave Bees 4. You may think that doesn't actually matter all that much, but on the final scores were Cryptid on 16 out of 30, Bees on 23 out of 30, and Mystique on 24 out of 30. You see how they were supposed to be tied, but I did not realize that until editing this video. So I guess Mystique wins. I gave the Skulk Sensor for the victory prize and was ordered to get rid of everything. The builds, the items, the blocks, the inventories, so I accidentally got rid of all of Bee's real properly gotten stuff. After everything was fixed, there was still one more thing I planned on doing, giving myself an Elytra. But you're probably thinking, can't you just go to the end and get that? Well no, in this server it's banned and it's impossible to get to. So after I flew around a bunch, the owner finally noticed and removed all my powers. But if there's one thing you should learn from this, if you get Operator on any server, you should absolutely abuse the power. And if you did enjoy, subscribing would really help me out a lot.